Recently, the balance changes were announced for the September update and it's not looking good. This update is really just seen as basically screwing over the free-to-play players, and that is just through the balance changes, and we don't even know what else is going to be in the update as of right now. But today, I just want to go over a lot of these changes to see the direction that the game is moving in and how to possibly fix it, so let's get right into it. The problem with this balance update mainly revolves around the hero equipment, which has been a bit of a hot topic ever since it was introduced to the game in the Town Hall 16 update. In the September update, most of the balance changes are just nerfs to the hero equipment, with there being very little buffs, and this is what has caused there to be a massive problem and why so many people just feel like they got robbed. Seems like all the time and effort spent farming ore just went to waste because some of the best pieces of equipment got nerfed. And this is something that does happen to other defenses and troops and stuff where they get nerfed. However, it's just very different when it comes to the equipment because of the whole environment around ore. Ore is seen as just a whole lot more valuable and harder to get than all other resources other than the gems. This is mainly because you are essentially limited in how much ore you can farm in a given time frame unless you spend gems to buy the ores that you need. This is what really makes the ores some of the most valuable resources, along with the fact that they are exclusively used for upgrading hero equipment, which are now crucial parts of the game and things that are just extremely important. Also, you have different rarities of ore, with the highest being the starry ore, which is also the hardest to get by far, and it is used to upgrade the epic hero equipment, which is what has been nerfed the most. So once people heard that all these things were going to get nerfed, they just felt like they had been scammed of their hard work, and now they would have to go and farm ore and spend all that time trying to upgrade new pieces of equipment, and that just isn't something super viable for free-to-play players. And we'll talk more about this later in the video, but I just really wanted to highlight some specific pieces of equipment since that is really important. First of all, you have Eternal Tome, which is something that has been in the game since the Grand Warden came out, and it is really like one of the most iconic and most useful abilities in the game. It is a big part of a ton of different attacks in the game, and it only ever got nerfed once shortly after it came out, where it received a small nerf in the range. Outside of that, this ability has been untouched and it has never really caused any problems, and instead I'd say it has been pretty crucial to the game as it is one of the standard abilities that people didn't just replace with some other equipment. So it getting randomly nerfed has been a pretty big deal, especially because the nerf is also pretty big at the higher levels, with it being 1.5 seconds shorter, which is just a massive amount of time when it comes to this ability inside of Clash of Clans. And it really just seems super random to heavily nerf this ability, despite it being around for a while. And I bring this up because you have the epic piece of equipment for the Warden, which is the Fireball, and this is arguably just a lot stronger and more broken than the Eternal Tome, yet this got no nerfs at all. This could possibly be to just get people to spend more time and maybe even money unlocking and upgrading the Fireball equipment, as that is a lot more profitable for Supercell than the standard Eternal Tome, which is relatively easy to upgrade. But then you also have other really important and widely popular pieces of equipment like the Giant Gauntlets and the Frozen Arrow that also got pretty big nerfs, and this would just try and get people to drop those pieces of equipment and instead maybe focus on the other expensive pieces of epic hero equipment. And that is also another thing to consider. Outside of just the upgrade costs, the hero equipment pieces themselves can also be pretty expensive. You can get them for free through the events, but if you ended up missing the event or just weren't able to complete it, then you are pretty much out of luck and will have to purchase the equipment for 1500 gems from the trader shop, and there is no other way to get the equipment as of right now. So if you had decided to skip out on a piece of equipment and instead use the resources on something more important to you at the time, now you will have to actually buy it if you want a more viable piece of equipment, and that is just something most people can't afford. So when you combine this along with the ores, then you can see just why so many free-to-play players are upset, and even paying players are still upset over this because it is just a waste of money, and there are even more problems with this. The second problem is just the fact that this wasn't necessary at all. Instead of going ahead and nerfing most of the good equipment along with other things like the Valkyries, all Supercell had to do was just buff the defenses. This is because defense is pretty weak in Clash of Clans, as Town Hall 16 really focused on the offense, So instead of nerfing all of that, it would have been a better move to go and buff the defense. This way nothing would really be getting directly nerfed, and it would be a good way to counter the Town Hall 16 update, which had just made offense in the game so much stronger. This would be the best way to deal with this because people would feel like they got better value through upgrading whatever defense got buffed, and you also couldn't really complain about this as it was a buff and not a nerf. Also, despite all the nerfs, the Root Rider didn't actually get a nerf despite it really being the leader in the offense of the game, with it being the best and most impactful defense. Instead, you had the Valkyrie get nerfed, and this is a troop that had only just started becoming good and useful again after basically just being in the shadow for the last couple of years. Also, something interesting that I wanted to point out is this statement at the bottom of the official Reddit post that announced these changes, where they say that the decisions were made based off of player feedback and through monitoring game data. Now, judging by the feedback that the players have given after this information came out, it is pretty clear that most people seem to be against this, and a lot of people would not have wanted these changes to happen. So I do find it hard to believe that Supercell actually used feedback from players in order to make these decisions, or maybe they only got the opinions from a very small groups of players that just live in a whole different world. But then as for the second part, well, in my opinion, I think that they would have seen that the defenses were the biggest problem, with them just not being strong enough to defend against the armies. Through the data, Supercell should have realized that the defenses just weren't strong enough and that the offense in the game was a lot stronger, and the easiest way to fix this would be to just make the defenses better, as that would be a lot more simple and more well received in my opinion. But also with the statement being at the bottom of the Reddit post, it makes me believe that Supercell knows that this is pretty controversial and that a lot of people would be upset with this, and they just try to spin it in a way that the players would kind of be the ones to blame for this happening rather than the devs that make the decisions. And this just brings us to the question of why Supercell would even do this if they knew that it wouldn't be well received, and if they possibly knew that it just was the wrong thing to do. Well, it seems like this is just a pure business move, because this will no doubt get people to spend money trying to keep up with the meta shift, and I suppose Supercell just doesn't care about the players that would be upset. But another thing to consider is that maybe there is something really good happening in this update that will make up for the balance changes announced, and Supercell is just simply trying to surprise us. We know that this update isn't just the balance changes, and that this is going to be a major update in the game, because we normally get one around this time, and Supercell have also basically announced it. We just don't know what the main contents are going to be in this update, and there is a chance that they are going to end up adding in some item or some feature, or just something that will get rid of this problem. This could possibly be a new way to get ores, or maybe a buff in the number of ores you get, or it really could be just about anything. I am still excited for the update, though these balance changes definitely aren't the most exciting thing to look forward to, though I hope that this is just something they are doing on purpose and will surprise us later on. However, we won't know until we get more information. But that is also it for this video. I really do hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one.